Hello and welcome to my workshop. Today we're going to do a little how-to on making a battery box for your RC truck. A lot of times you end up putting a lot of the interior in, all the running gear, all the components that go inside the truck to make it look scale, going to chew up the available space for placing a battery. So one of the options you have is to create a external box, especially in a pickup truck, or even in the cargo area of, say, a Jeep. You could do this as well. But here's a couple example of boxes that you could use. Now, you're not really limited to that. I've made some that are clad in wood, which make it look like a crate. What I'm going to do today is to make it look like a large, heavy-duty plastic storage box. And so just going to be starting with basically a sheet of flat styrene. The lid will pop off and have some fake snaps to close the thing shut. So let's get started. So for styrene, what I use is a clear PVC cleaner. I just put it in this little squeeze bottle, a little small needle-looking thing on the end, not actually sharp, but it allows you to put a fine amount of the cleaner, which in turn becomes actually the glue, wherever you need it. Now this works off almost like a capillary effect, is if you put the two pieces together very snugly, and you run just a bead of this along, it'll wick into the joints. You don't actually have to paint the joint like a regular glue would be beforehand. What I will sometimes do is I will put this on, like especially large pieces that are kind of wieldy and to get them started, I'll put them on either side and let them sit for a few seconds. And then when I put them back together, I'll put another run of the glue down. And what that does is it will pre-soften this material so that when you put the glue down, it doesn't have to take that extra seconds to soften. It's already kind of at that stage, and it goes straight into start where it's bonding together. Because that's what really you're doing, is you're softening up this, and when they dry back out, so to speak, they are just mushed together and become one piece. So if you do it right, you have a really tight joint, you can get a very, very strong bond with styrene. So let's just get started with that. So that's the basic box shape built that we're going to be going for. We still have to make a lid for that. But I don't know if you saw on the tape, the cutting mat I had, I'd forgotten how bad this stuff reacts with that cutting mat. It basically just takes the color right off the mat. So I just grabbed a scrap board that I can do all my gluing and cutting on. I'll just use this from now on. We want to get all of the edges as flush as possible. Now we don't need to worry about it being 100% perfect because we're actually going to be covering up the majority of the edges anyway. So probably just start eyeballing some shapes on here and then come back and cut. So what we've done is placed a band all the way around the top, and where we've drawn in our design, we've started to lay that in with styrene. So I got them on both corners. I'll have to come back and make pieces that will fit in the centers here. The one thing you have to make sure you're careful of is that when you're going around the corner, unless you're putting a miter on this, one end is going to be longer than the other. So once we're finished with this, we'll just come in with some Tamiya putty and we'll contour all of these, fill in the gaps, sand this back down. It'll just make it look like it's more of a factory piece. There's a little bit more work to do, so let's go ahead and get to that. So I was able to get all of the pieces glued on and I added a coat of the Tamiya putty all the way around, just using my finger to get up into the edge in between the transition where the upper piece to the lower piece is. So when this fully dries, I'll come back and sand all the outside part, and then doing the process of sanding the inside, it'll round over this top piece a bit and give that a really good transition down in there. There will probably be a few seams here and there that I'll have to come back due to the shrinkage of the putty, but that's pretty close to where it needs to be for your final product. So I was able to finish up the box. I got the coat of paint and coat of clear on that. I painted the red, but I didn't have anything but flat red So what I'll end up doing is once this dries a bit, I'm going to wet sand the box and then just spray the whole thing back over with clear, and that'll make the red look a lot better. But so it has magnets that hold the lid on, plus it has a little lip that keeps it sliding back and forth. So a generously sized box, you can put a pretty decent sized battery in there. All you have to do is mount this down to the bed of a truck or whatever. Drill a hole for the battery wire to come out, and when you want to change the battery, pop the top off, and otherwise it just looks like a one of those Rubbermaid or whatever type giant plastic totes in the back. So hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you get some good ideas about battery storage, and we'll see you on the rocks.